Om Satchidanandarupaya Vishvotpatyadihetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadhyasya yatonvayaditaratascharteshvabhignaswarat Tene brahmahradaya adikavaye muhyanti yatsurayaha Tejo varim mridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha Dhamna svena sada nirastakuhakam Satyam param dhimahi Dharma projita kaitavotra paramo Nirmatsaranam satam Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam Tapatrayon mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Kim va parerishvaraha Sadyo hridyavarudyate kritibihi Shushrushubistakshanat. With your eyes still closed, invoke to evoke by listening carefully. Sri Shuka said, "Now came the most auspicious and favorable time when the star Rohini was in the ascendant and all the other stars and planets were in a very beneficent disposition. Peaceful silence reigned in all the quarters. The stars were shining clear in the sky. All the villages, cowherd settlements, and mining quarries saw the dawn of a prosperous era. The rivers flowed with placid water. The tanks were full of lotus blossoms. The woodlands were resonant with the chirping of fluttering birds and the buzzing of bees from the trees and creepers heavy laden with flowers. Soft blew the breeze, dust-free and fragrant, and gently glowed the fires in the sacrificial hearths of the holy. Accepting the minds of evil ones like Kamsa, the minds of all good humans felt peace within. In the heavens, the kettle drums of the celestials sounded, announcing the imminent birth of the Lord, who has no birth. The Kinnaras and Gandharvas sang, Siddhas and Charanas hymned, the Vidyadharas and Apsaras joyously danced. The Munis, together with Devas, showered flowers with delight, and the clouds roared gently in tune with the ocean. At such a time, in the pitch darkness of midnight, Mahavishnu, the resident in the hearts of all, was born of the divinely beautiful Devaki, like the full moon rising on the eastern horizon. Lotus-eyed, four-armed, sporting the conch, mace, and other weapons, with the luminous Srivatsa mark on the chest and the shining Kaustubha on the neck, wearing a yellow cloth, possessed of the majesty and grace of a heavy rain cloud, with locks gleaming with the luster of the diadem and earrings studded with precious stones, bedecked with splendorous ornaments like bracelets, armlets, and waist-girdle. Such was the luminous form of the unique child that greeted Vasudevas, or your vision. Gently open your eyes. Where did you feel Bhagavan Krishna was being born? Did your mind go to some jungle? To some shack with hay? You felt him in every part of your being. Our course is intentionally called Vedanta in Bhagavata. Veda means to know. Anta means within or inside. And Bhagavata is another word for Bhagwan. To know within oneself. To know oneself as Bhagwan. This birth is not of the Bhagavan Krishna. This birth is of the Bhagavan Krishna. Bhagavan Krishna is an avatara of Mahavishnu. For those who have studied Bhagavad Gita, the logic of an avatara is presented as the one who restores balance. You all know this reference, correct? When adharma grows and dharma shrinks, Bhagavan comes to balance. In the 9th skanda, when Bhagavan Krishna's avatara was being introduced, the logic of his avatara was grace. Why did he manifest? Simply to grace us, to bless us, to help us. And what we reflected on last week, in the 10th skanda, the logic of Bhagavan's avatara is to guide. To guide Mother Earth through these asuras who have disguised themselves as leaders. A variety of reasons for why Bhagavan manifests. If we go back into Bhagavatam, Jaya and Vijaya, the guards of Bhagavan Narayana, were cursed to become Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, to become Ravana and Kumbhakarna, and now to become Dantavaktra and Shishupala. And you may have observed, with every birth of theirs, they've become weaker. In the Mahabharata, Dantavaktra and Shishupala hardly do anything. They do much more as Ravana and Kumbhakarna, and the most as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. This shows their evolution from vices to virtues. So when I casually call you Hiranyakashipu, remember that eventually you'll become Dantavaktra and Shishupala also. And that's a good thing. Because where did they go afterwards? Back to be with Bhagavan. In terms of Kamsa, another asura that we've been introduced to, do you remember when he was told that the 8th child of your sister will destroy you? Where did he see and feel Bhagavan? Everywhere. And this is a very powerful sentiment. It shows that he's a astika. What is the English word for astika? One who is a theist. Nastika means atheist. Astika means theist. You're only afraid of what you believe to be real, correct? If you don't feel an entity is real, you're not going to be afraid of it, correct? So what a lovely sentiment. How much of an astika Kamsa is. And then we read about Bhagwan's birth. And now we listen to this again. Whatever is inside of you will come outside. All of you agree to that? Which is why we're investing in ourselves, not outside of ourselves. In fact, the more you're in courses with me, the poorer you will become externally. I've asked for you and I'm going to keep on asking from you. But internally, don't you feel richer? Bhagwan Krishna is the inside. And whatever's inside is going to come outside. You got to hear about the birds and the bees and the clouds. Now, we explore more of those details. 10th Skanda, 3rd Adhyaya, that's the 3rd chapter, the 45th Shloka, verse 45, 10:3:45, because I know a lot of you are tracking this, studying this in a very organized way. This is Bhagwan Krishna, or Bhagwan Narayana, speaking to his parents, Sri Vasudeva and Srimati Devaki. Yuva mam putra bhavena brahma bhavena chasakrit chintayantau kritasnehau yasyete madgatim param. Bhagwan Narayana, as Bhagwan Krishna, is sharing with his parents. You have the feeling that I am your son, your putra. Understand, I am not just your son, but I am Brahma. I am Brahman. I am infinite. I have come as your son to bring about that bhava. Chintayantau krita snehau, love me like this. Think of me like this. Yasyete madgatim param, and if you do, you will come to me. This gati. This goal is param, is the highest. So this is the literal translation. We'll look into this more. When Bhagwan Krishna was born, he was born looking like the Bhagwan Krishnas in your photographs, in your icons, with 4 hands, with a lotus and so on. Do you think you were born like that? Ask your parents how you were born. I've seen both of my kids being born. I held them immediately. And though I feel they're like Bhagwan Krishna, they definitely didn't look like the icons I know of Bhagwan Krishna. Both Sri Vasudeva and Srimati Devaki know that this is God. And they're holding this infant, and Sri Vasudeva says to this infant, you are the cause of all of these effects. Deep Vedanta, you are the cause of all of these effects, but these effects can never know you are the cause. The effects can never know you are the cause. And he specifies, can your ears taste strawberry ice cream? Can your tongue hear Vedanta and Bhagavata? These effects have a very limited scope with other effects, correct? Tongue, ice cream. Ear, satsang. These effects, even the mind and intellect, cannot know the cause. And the implication of this statement is for one to let go of logic and to hold on to faith. We are in the portion of Srimad Bhagavatam that's even beyond faith, that is trust. Ashraya, surrender. What Srimati Devaki says to her infant, forever the serpent of death has been chasing us, now in the form of my brother Kamsa. The serpent of death, so close to biting us. But those who have found your feet, that serpent turns away. Yes. Imagine a dog is chasing you, but then you go to another side of the fence or indoors, then that dog turns away, correct? The serpent of death is chasing us, and the only way to stop this is to find his feet. Bhagavan Narayana explains to Vasudeva and Devaki why he's born to them. He says, in the past, you were Prishni and Sutapa. Prishni and Sutapa. And I have actually been born to you many times. I've been born to you many times as a child, but you never knew me to be God. And this is why I'm manifesting my divinity most overtly, for you to realize that I am God. And I feel I don't have to give so much of Vedanta to this, because this is Vedanta. Everything you've experienced is divinity, but we keep using our eyes and not our intellect or vision. After Bhagavan Narayana says this to them, he converts his divine infancy into an ordinary infancy, meaning he starts to cry. He's hungry and so on. Bhagavan Krishna then summons Yoga Maya. This word is used many times in this canto, Devi Yoga Maya. And he says to her, in Gokula, there is a Srimati there. Her name is Yashoda. And she just gave birth to a child. What I want you to do is I want you to go and be that child. You go and live as that child. So as she did, remember, she's with Bhagavan Krishna in the cells of Vasudeva and Devaki. As she leaves, what happens? Everyone goes to sleep. All of the guards go to sleep. The locks in that prison, they all open up. You've seen this before. You've heard this before. And as Shriman Vasudeva is holding Bhagavan Krishna on his head, who appears there? Adishesha. That is Sri Lakshmana, if you will, or Balarama. And that snake has its hoods over Bhagavan Krishna like a umbrella. And remember, Bhagavan was born in Bharat, popularly known as India, so there's always rain. Like in Bollywood movies, drama, dancing. So there's rain when Bhagavan Krishna is born. And unlike what you typically see, when they arrived at the Yamuna actually parted. We typically don't see that in images or stories. Parted. And the reference is like the ocean parted for Bhagavan Rama. And there the ocean didn't part, but allowed Bhagavan Rama to cross, correct? This I found to be quite fascinating because when I was in Catholic school, this was often emphasized, that the ocean parted for everyone to go through. There's a similarity. One other lovely insight into Bhagavan Krishna going through the Yamuna. in the stories where the river is not parted, that river keeps rising, yes? And how high does it rise? Rises enough just to touch Bhagavan Krishna's feet that are hanging outside of that basket. So Bhagavan just gently hangs his toe to around the nose mark of his father. And that's how the Yamuna rises, but not more than that. The river just wanted to touch his feet. Remember that serpent of death. As soon as you find that foot, those feet, that serpent goes away. When Vasudeva arrives at Yashoda Devi's home, and I'm so hesitant to just say Yashoda because this is the custodian of Bhagwan, but then I'll just keep on going with these descriptive words, so understand how much I revere them, okay? When he arrives at Yashoda's home, he switches those infants. He leaves Bhagavan Krishna there and takes Devi Yogamaya with him. Now some of you are thinking, didn't she know that she gave birth to a boy or to a girl? And she was tired. So she didn't recognize if it was a boy or a girl. She was happy that the baby is healthy. Who cares if it's a boy or a girl, correct? Let it be both. And then Vasudeva returns with Devi Yogamaya. So we'll pause here. We'll think a little bit about this. So much of what has come into the lives of Devaki and Vasudeva, they never asked for that. Such a noble couple. And the hardships that they had to endure, continue to endure. For us, I'm sure you've come across this in your studies of Vedanta. A sign of one who is wise is that whatever comes to them, asked or unasked, they are cheerful. And that seems very difficult to practice. I didn't ask for this. How come this is happening to me? The way to be cheerful about this is to adapt. Whatever comes into your life, adapt to it. And that really means grow from it. In our spiritual parenting workshop yesterday, and lots of you were there was a young family who asked a question: how do you endure seeing your child go through a illness? In their case, their child is going through a serious physical illness. And their child is young, not even in middle school. And this illness came about. The child was not born with this. So I shared with them, I hear a lot about this. People's physical illnesses, mental illnesses, just difficulties people are going through. Even in Meaningful Mornings, you heard about difficulties that some seekers are going through. And I shared that no worldly perspective has ever helped me understand why this is happening. And I'm sharing with you too, no worldly perspective will ever help you to be cheerful or adapt to what is coming to you, asked or unasked. This demands a spiritual perspective, a Vedantic perspective. And a fine display of this is Prince Arjuna. When Prince Arjuna expresses his difficulties, what is the first message Bhagavan Krishna gives him? Know, that's K-N-O-W, vastness. In other words, know you're infinite. You're getting lost in the finite when you are infinite. And Prince Arjuna has a difficulty internalizing that. So Bhagavan comes down one perspective to know change. Arjuna, your thoughts are revolving around life and death. You know everything changes. So life and death should be less serious, correct? no change. And even then, Prince Arjuna has a tough time. So Bhagavan comes down one more perspective, and he never comes lower than this. No responsibility. What you have to do is your responsibility. And that's where I shared with all of you to adapt. Whatever has happened in your life, whatever will happen in your life, you may have asked for it, you may have not asked for it, but all of this is happening for your development. It makes you more responsible. It makes you more insightful about change. And finally, you feel your infinitude. Remember that acronym, VCR. VCRs are done away with, but no vastness, no change, no responsibility. That is the only perspective that will allow us to go through our difficulties. And this will become more clear as we continue. 10:4:39. The 4th chapter, the 39th verse. Rishi Shuka is speaking to Raja Parikshita. Who is Raja Parikshita secretly? You. Anyone who's inquiring, Pariksha means examine. That person is Raja Parikshita. Note, it's not anyone who's dying. That's a given. Inquiring. 10:4:39. Moolam hi Vishnur Devanam Yatra Dharma Sanatanaha Tasya cha Brahma Go Vipraha Tapo Yajnasa Dakshinaha. Rishi Shuka says to Raja Parikshita, the foundation of Sanatana Dharma, or Hinduism, is Bhagwan Narayana. How does one live Sanatana Dharma? Through following, protecting Brahma. And Brahma here can mean the Devas in a literal sense, creation. Wherever Brahma is, that's where creation is. Then, go. Creation expresses in a very functional way as cows or animals. Then Vipra. More evolved are humans. In this case, those who study and share the Veda. Tapa, Yajna, Dakshina. To follow and further creation, cows, those who study and share the Veda. Tapa means to grow into this. Yajna means to be dedicated to this. Dakshina means to support this. Okay? This is the literal meaning. Now we'll open this up more. We come back to our katha. When Devi Yogamaya was in the hands of Vasudeva and Devaki, that infant started crying. And immediately, the guards, everything got locked up, the guards woke up, and they ran to Kamsa and said the 8th child is born. And he was sleeping, and in his daze, he runs there and he's shaking out of fear, out of anger. And he enters that cell and he grabs that infant by the leg and is about to smash that infant on the stone ground. But that infant comes out of Kamsa's hands. And Devi Yogamaya laughs and calls him a fool. I wanted to highlight that sharing of you're a fool, and says, I'm not the 8th child. I am the sister of the 8th child. That 8th child has already been freed. Go and search for your death. And then she leaves and says, I'm going to manifest and all holy places. I really like that detail. See how Devi Yoga Maya, she goes to all holy places, sacred grounds. What makes that place special? Where Maya is acknowledged to be the servant of Bhagwan. Generally, Bhagwan is a servant to Maya, the way that we live. But when you go on a yatra, when you go to an ashram, don't you feel that Maya's quieter? That Maya has been controlled by its owner? So she shares that. And what does Kamsa do? All of his asuras, they're all brought out now. He, and you'll get to this detail, before he meets his ministers, he has this dialogue with Vasudeva and Devaki. And he says to them, birth and death is due to one's karma. This is Kamsa, who just tried to killed 7 and is about to kill the 8th, is telling the parents of these kids, don't be sad. This is their karma. He says that just like pots are made and broken, but nothing happens to the mud, so too, nothing has happened to your children. They are mud. It's amazing that he can say this after having done this to these parents. But these parents are so great. They actually don't even, and they're released, but they don't hold any negativity towards Kamsa. I love Srimati Devaki. You have to put yourself in her position. Like when it said that Sanatana Dharma is facilitated by yajna. Yajna means dedication. She also heard the voice that 8 children she will give birth to. She's also heard from Kamsa, I'm going to kill every one of them. This is not an accidental birth. This is not a miscarriage, which are equally saddening. But to have these kids consciously killed, but see how she went through every one of those births. Dedicated to that 8th child who will support Sanatana Dharma. If anyone is an icon of yajna, it is her. She often gets lost in the shadow of Bhagavan Krishna, but remember, she came, then Bhagavan Krishna came, in this katha. After they are released, then Kamsa goes to his ministers and asks, what should we do? And what do you think these ministers are going to advise him? Stop Sanatana Dharma. Correct? If Sanatana Dharma is the expression and Bhagavan Narayana is the root, if we stop the expression, the root will die too. So stop Sanatana Dharma. And he specifically instructs all of those asuras who are shapeshifters. You know, when you watch the X-Men movies, there's lots of shapeshifters, correct? That's all copied from our asuras. They're shapeshifters to go and kill all infants. They don't know which infant is Bhagavan Krishna, so go and kill all infants. And they're excited about this. Now, temporarily, we will go to Gokula, also known as Vrajabhumi. And there, Shriman Nanda wakes up. And he sees his infant, that is Bhagavan Krishna, the factual Bhagavan Krishna. See, when our kids are nice, we say, oh, you're like Bhagavan Krishna, or you're like Devi Parvati. But this is the factual Bhagavan Krishna. And he's feeling so grateful that he just starts to express generosity. And I'm going to share one passage with you, then bring in some Vedanta, and then we'll pretend to have a discussion because I never leave you with enough time for discussion. But here's that passage which I thought to be so insightful. Objects gain purity by the passage of time. The body gains purity by bathing and rubbing. Places become pure by cleaning. Egos become pure by disciplines. Senses become pure by austerity or tapa. Rituals or karma becomes pure by sacrifices or yajna. Wealth becomes pure by gifts or dakshina. And the mind becomes pure by peace or shanti. We have all of this, and now we know how we can make all of this pure. In Shriman Nanda's case, he is distributing his wealth because he's feeling that purity within and spreading that purity. My last point. I shared with you in the 9th skanda, the reason Bhagavan is born is for grace, to grace us. And in the 10th skanda, to guide us. When you try to search for that divinity, just like these asuras are, correct? You are going to start to feel the pressure, the weight of negativity, of vices. Because Bhagavan Krishna was born, all these asuras came out, correct? When you start searching for that divinity, not outside but inside, you're going to start to see the same, feel the same. And they're shapeshifters, aren't they? Sometimes we justify our anger. Sometimes we're proud of our jealousy. Shapeshifters. Never give up. This is the message we get from Bhagavan Krishna's life and also from the asuras. They never gave up. That is to be commended, no? When did Ravana give up? When he didn't have the option to give up. That's when he gave up. A Devi had drawn me a lovely image, and it was a stork or some sort of bird that had eaten a frog. So the head of that frog is in the bird's mouth, but that frog still had one arm loose and it's grabbed the throat of that bird. So the bird is suffocating now. And it's such a beautiful image of never give up. You know, that frog's head is in that bird's mouth, but still fighting to survive. And that's the feeling we have to have. We have no option but to survive. And survive here means to surrender. And we'll begin to explore that with Putana. Puta means dirty, impure. And what does na mean? Not. What did Bhagavan Krishna do to Putana? He established the na of her puta. We have to be the same way. Oh.